Hey guys, I'm Charlie Shrem, investor advisor and early Bitcoin pioneer in the space here.
And I'm Lennart Lopin. I'm the CTO of Byte Federal, a Bitcoin ATM operator.
It's good to be here with you today.
Same for me. Thank you, Charlie, for taking the time. So, Charlie, the first question that I have for you is, when you were working at BitInstant, what was your vision towards the future of BitInstant? And I know you mentioned in the past that you had an idea about some kind of mobile form of selling Bitcoin. Could you talk about that a little bit?
So in the early days of BitInstant, in the early days of Bitcoin, there was no real way to buy and sell Bitcoin. And if we look at a bridge, right, connecting one piece of land to another, the old piece of land is the old traditional banking system, and the new land is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. We were having to rent other bridges and pay a very high toll to do that. And for our all of our customers and people who wanted to get involved in cryptocurrency, they were having to drive over this old, rickety, slow bridge and pay a very high toll. And that was how we were doing it. And the fees were high and it was very uncomfortable. But cryptocurrency still grew and still got to where the point was today. The idea was to build our own bridge and was to have our own bank in the box, right? Our own banking kiosks, ATMs, to be able to allow people to be able to walk up to these machines 24 hours a day, buy, sell, and operate within the crypto space, do loans, things like that. Back then in 2010, there was no real way to do that. There was no operational know-how. There was no understanding, and it was, to build a bridge is not an easy thing to do.
Right.
So it's really good to see that now here in 2018, but you've launched a few years ago already, you've completed that vision for me. You've built that new bridge and you're operating that bridge and it's working really well.
You said you started with Bitcoin in 2010, right? Really, really early. So
late 2010, early 2011.
Right. And so both of us saw the early versions of the first Bitcoin ATMs, but it was really hard for people to even understand what it is, what's the purpose, and where to find them, right?
They were proof of concepts. They didn't come until I would say 2012, 2013, but they were more of these desktop things that you put in your house.
Yeah.
Put a dollar bill in there and then some Bitcoin comes to your phone or whatever. They were very small. They didn't work. The software didn't work very well. They weren't scalable. They weren't for consumer use. But it was a step in the right direction. And it's good, you took that step and you decided to commercialize it and make it where you can have hundreds of machines all over the world.
Right. So when we launched Byte Federal in 2016, there was a little precursor. So in 2014, we started looking into Bitcoin ATMs, but it felt like the market wasn't ready yet. People would not know and understand what it is. In fact, if you've ever seen Odyssey 2001, the movie, where there's this black little rock and the monkeys are dancing around it, not understanding what it might be. I had some friends in Europe. They put a Bitcoin ATM there, and if nobody bought anything, people were just staring at it. Like, what kind of alien object is this?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but now, of course, it's different, especially in the United States.
Now people rely on them. The first thing you do when you travel to a town is, where's the closest Bitcoin ATM? Or Ethereum or Dash or whatever, because I want to be able to buy or sell. When you travel over the world, when I travel somewhere else in the world, it's a lot easier for me to just go to an ATM, withdraw cash that way, than using my banking debit card.
They work like a currency exchange for many people, right? Especially when you travel.
Like the travel X or whatever they call them, but without having the crazy high fees. Just the other day, I was traveling. I was in Austria. I get out of the airport, and I checked my phone, and I said, how many euros is $500 worth? And I think it gave me a number. It was like 300 something. I forget the exact number, but then I didn't want to. I had some dollars on me, and I said, well, why don't I just go to the travel place right there and convert my money? Right. It's a lot easier, just because I had the cash on me and I didn't want to take it out of my bank account. I went to them and I said, here's $500. How much is it to convert to euros? And it was literally between their exchange rate and their commission fee, I was losing almost 40% of my money.
Yeah,
it was like $100 worth of they were getting on that one transaction.
That's a typical experience of having a rent seekers, right? A rent-seeking legacy banking system or currency system versus the new one, the one that we're basically working on establishing. One other interesting thing is...
So to finish the story, so I was like, no, thank you, I'm done. She goes, well, everyone uses us because all the banks are closed on weekends and we're open. I says, does the ATM machine close? No. So honest, use the ATM machine. Who's going to a bank? It was like the stupidest thing she could have possibly said.
But that's a typical experience even in the United States. When you go to a bank branch and they're closed most of the time, many people will opt for the ATMs or for the kiosks that they're putting up.
Yep.
And even inside a bank, there's a focus towards the automated machines. One other interesting aspect about is traveling to Europe. Let's say you do see that a Bitcoin ATM network is kind of a mirror of the financial freedom in a place. Like I remember in London, for instance, you have a Bitcoin ATM at every street corner.
Yep.
You go to Paris, just like you travel 2 hours, you're in Paris. There is not a single Bitcoin ATM in the whole city.
That?
It must be because of the financial system. There couldn't be any other possible reason why.
Probably no infrastructure in place to support it.
Germany, same thing. You have
but it's
maybe
such a
one or two
perfect
Bitcoin
fit
ATMs.
for Europe. So in America, we go to a bank. There's tellers. There's going to be one ATM machine and there's 4 tellers. And there's probably like 2 people that are in that bank at any given time. Why do you need so many tellers? You could do everything. You go to Europe, it's almost impossible to find a bank with a teller.
Right.
Every bank just has like 6 or 7 machines, and you could do everything. You could make deposits, withdrawals, transfers, anything on the machines.
And that's one thing we saw in Germany. It's like you have a typical, I'm originally from Germany, you have these self-service terminals. You walk into a bank and they do everything for you. It might also be a reason why the adoption rate is different in the United States versus Europe. So in 2014, originally we looked into it, but didn't. But in 2016, that's where we pulled the lever and started with Byte Federal, initially here in Florida, and then started rolling out our ATMs across Florida and then into Georgia, and right now we're in 10 states. One thing I still wanted to talk about with you a little bit regarding the legacy banking system and the crypto space, like philosophically, what pulled you into crypto? Like, what excited you about the future
What originally
potential?
pulled me into Bitcoin in the early days was the ability to have a financial system that was really controlled by, cared for, cared by, and the future of it protected by all the people that use it and that want to have a stake in it. And that's what really I fell in love with Bitcoin, because this really is a financial system that's censorship resistant, and the integrity of the system relies on the fact that no single person can control it. If it ever gets to a point where a single person can control it, the whole system falls apart. So everyone has an incentive to make sure that the system is operating honestly, with integrity, and without a trusted third party.
So it becomes like a public utility, network.
Exactly. Bitcoin is a public financial system.
Right.
It's a public and transparent system.
See, one of the drivers for the what I find so really interesting about Bank in a Box, right, a Bitcoin ATM that is not just a place where you exchange currency like you would in a typical currency exchange place, but it allows you to do so much more over the interface. In case like Byte Federal, where we control the hardware and software, we're able to add other financial services to it.
You can walk into it. You can go up to a machine and get an asset-backed loan in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You can get a cryptocurrency-backed loan at the machine in 5 minutes. Right now, if I want to get a loan on my house, I literally applied like 3 weeks ago. I still haven't heard back. It's just what a hassle and time and applications you have to do. Where at the machines, you can do it in 5 minutes.
Yeah, the machines, especially when you look at the two-way machines, right? The ones that buy and sell at the same time, they become like a mini branch of a bank where you can go to them, you can sell your cash to the machine. If they support cards, then that's another opportunity to use your banking cards. And also at the other time, they would allow you to withdraw cash especially when you're overseas. That's really interesting.
So another topic, if you look at all your competition around the world, they have to wait for their machines to be built. It's like a month of lead time, right? And then they don't control the software. So it's not true 100% control. Like it's not where they can rely on themselves. What do you guys do differently?
They have a middleman. So interestingly enough, we got started with help of General Bytes. General Bytes is in those days they were the 3rd largest Bitcoin ATM manufacturer. Now they're the 2nd.
And they're Czech
from Czech Republic.
Make the best
so
things.
They met us. We were running a Bitcoin meetup here in Sarasota and had some interesting conversations. And they were interested in also kind of understanding the U.S. market better. And so we launched Byte Federal together with General Bytes initially. But one of the particular challenges being in the middle between this legacy banking system and a future financial system is you have to always translate between these two worlds. And one big hurdle, of course, is the regulations, is the existing laws and navigating those. So on our team, I'm really proud of our team. Like Mark, our CFO, he has an amazing relationships established with local
all
regulators.
The regulators and all the banks.
Exactly, and with the banks and cash transportation companies. So we have all of that squared away. But one thing that became clear is if you don't control your own software, if you are relying on a third-party middleman, if you will, manufacturer, then you're not flexible enough. If there's changes that are required, whether they're by law or from a user perspective,
for the software
you have
company.
to wait.
Or you write the software yourself, right?
Right, yeah. So I'm a software engineer. That's my background. Our software engineering team is really, really great. They have financial backgrounds in trading system, building trading systems and user interfaces. And so, yeah, it's all built in-house. And so
what about your machines?
The machines also, now the latest model is
Byte Federal machines.
Byte Federal machines.
So you're building these just for your own. You're not selling them to anyone.
No,
These are
no.
you build them. You need machines. You go out and build them here in Florida.
Correct.
So the lead time is a lot shorter and the price is a lot lower.
We source all the material here in the United States. They're US built, if you will.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's really nice, and no lead time, not waiting for China. And also what it allows us in particular is to grow relatively fast because our machines, we just pay costs, if you will. We don't have to resell them or buy basically from a manufacturer that put a margin on it. So it allows us to expand faster than the other Bitcoin ATM operators.
How many people work for the team right now full time?
We have 7 people working full time.
All here in Sarasota.
All here in Florida. Yeah. And we have any other expertise that's just remotely joining.
That's amazing.
The team.
That's really great.
Yeah, great company, great little team. No, I think having that ability to change and add to the software on the fly makes a big difference. When we get feedback from our customers, from our users, we can just change that button or change that functionality around. A lot of it is feedback from our users, from our customers that helps us that way. Another interesting topic that I wanted to talk about is the hurdles of actually entering the space, right? So if you can run a Bitcoin company like on the side, but you're not going to go very far.
So if someone wants Bitcoin, right? Let's just say they want Bitcoin. They decide for whatever reason they want to buy something online. They saw on eBay, or they want to buy a piece of software, or they want to send some money overseas, or they want to play a video game, or they want to do something that involves cryptocurrency. And more nowadays, that's becoming a thing because a lot of these companies will offer discounts for using crypto, or they'll only accept crypto.
It's the money of the internet.
Exactly. If they haven't, the longer it takes for them to get it, it's a race against time. The longer it takes for them to get that, then the less of a chance it is that they will actually get it and use it, and we just lost another person in the space. So what happens is it takes so long. You got to go to an exchange, you got to go to these retail sites, you got to create an account, get approved,
hook up your bank accounts, submit credit card information, whatever.
It's just a process and it's too long. Your machines, they can find where the machine is, get to the machine, usually there's one very close, do all the verification with their ID and everything on the spot at the machine. Verification is within seconds, and they can use
it's actually,
the machine.
we have on our team, we have like a clock where we test against the time. Like our goal was to get that registration process down as fast as possible. Like all the regulatory steps are in there, but to squeeze that time down and make it so simple that anybody, like your 90-year-old grandma that still doesn't understand, still hates the Fed and wants to take some of her funds and move it into Bitcoin. So the interesting aspect that we saw is some of our Bitcoin ATMs become like meetup places, ad hoc meetup places where people go to talk about crypto or bring their parents and say, like, they point to the ATM, this is Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way that they can understand a digital asset, if you will. Some people have a hard time.
They need a physical manifestation.
They need a physical manifestation.
And you guys took a very interesting step, right? So most companies will kind of like wait for the regulators to come to them. Mm-hmm. You guys decided to contact every state and every regulator.
Yes.
And why did you do that? What did you do?
So from the very beginning, we wanted this particular company to be going into the banking sector, doing everything correct by the book, and taking on the existing landscape as it is, as a challenge, if you will. Work with them and present them a better, superior model.
Every state has a Department of Financial Services. How many are you speaking to?
We spoke to all of them. It's a question of whether they return basically your calls, but we speak to a majority of them. We're we're in contact with them. And we had a presentation even here in Florida. The financial regulators in Florida, the office, they came for field test. So we presented an ATM. We walked them through the sign-up steps to the purchase and sell of Bitcoin, and that was pretty amazing. So I kind of seeing them, and they were excited about it too, because what we notice is in law enforcement, in government, when you actually take this technology to them and explain how it works, they're excited because they have nobody else. They feel like there's a certain fear of new technology, especially in an older system, and they feel very welcoming when you take the technology to them and explain how things work.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And so maybe at the end, if we wrap this up and talk about your particular advisory role and the incubator role that Crypto IQ is working on in a particular case with Byte Federal.
That's interesting. So if you believe in like reincarnation, right? Like you come back as a different person, you die and you come back. I feel like Byte Federal is like what I couldn't achieve at Instant 6 or 7 years ago, and that's why I've taken such an interest in your company. And now, our company, to see it really grow as much as, and I'm really happy to say that the amount you've probably grown 8x since we first met a year or two ago, and it's really been unbelievable to see you grow like that. I've taken such an interest, and our team at Crypto IQ, just incubating you guys and advising and being there to help you with ideas, relationships, and contacts has been a humbling experience, sometimes a frustrating one, but it's all part of the process, and we've had such a great time doing it.
Right. Yeah, your team is really amazing, all the expertise and knowledge that comes from Crypto IQ, so that's definitely something that we admire and are grateful for. Finally, like when it comes to the vision of Byte Federal, right? Like I think we're pretty much on the same page there, right? We see a network of Bitcoin ATMs on every street corner,
all over the country and then all over the world.